Hey, how's it going? This is Dan from modular.dev, and today we're going to be continuing our series on web development for the beginners. We're going to be going over videos today, so I don't think we've done that yet. We talked about images a while back, and maybe I mentioned something about videos, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth today about it. Basically, how do you do it? There is a HTML video element, which I have linked to in the description. The documentation on MDN. So you can kind of see here, you have the video tag, and then you can specify the controls and the width, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then you can specify your video sources. Now, let's just go ahead and try it, and then we'll talk a little bit more about all the different options that you have. So in here, I've created just a blank HTML document. And I downloaded a couple sample videos before I got on this video, and I put the links to where I got those in the description in case you want to follow along. So the first thing that you got to do then is put in that video tag that we saw, and there's a couple of different ways you can do it. If you only have one video, and we'll talk about why you may want more than one video later, you can just put source. So src, kind of like when we do for images, and then you can put the source of your video. So let's go ahead and, that's the most basic example that we can get. Let's go ahead and run that and see what we get. Okay. And you can see we have this thing on the screen. Right now it's just a image, though. There's no video playing. There's no play button or anything. So let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to zoom in just a tad bit more. So if you remember from what I was showing you right at the beginning, there is this controls attribute right there that you can add. So if we add in the controls attribute, that should put the play button and some other controls on there. So most of the time you're going to want that. And there we go. We have a video now with controls. We can hit play and we can see the video playing, which is good. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple different other options that we have. So again, at any point you can go into the documentation yourself and look at all the different attributes. Autoplay is one, and it does talk a little bit about autoplay and best practices for autoplay. So some people maybe they want their video to play right away, but in fact your users are probably going to get annoyed with that, especially if there's sound coming out. That's why in some browsers such as Chrome, autoplay doesn't work if the muted attribute is present or is not present. So basically if you play a video and it also has sound, people may wonder where that's coming from. So if you ever go to a website and you notice that, you probably get annoyed with it as well. There are ways to get around it, of course, because there are still people doing that. But by default, the autoplay will not work. So let's go ahead and just try putting the autoplay in here. And we'll refresh the screen. And nothing really changed. I can still play it, but it doesn't autoplay. So again, with that documentation, what we saw is we have to put the muted attribute on there as well. And now we can play the video, or we can refresh and the video will autoplay. But it's important to notice that we are muted now. So we can play video, but we're not going to be having sound come out by default. A user could turn up the sound on that, but that's what the muted attribute does. So that's what controls, autoplay, and muted. Let's go ahead and just take a look and see what else we have. There's a couple other ones here, picture in picture. We won't necessarily get into that. A little bit more control over what is shown in the controls list. Let's see what else we might want to do. Loop, if you want to loop the video. For example, I do that. If we go to my website here, platformwebsolutions.com. This video in the background, if we look at it in the source, Here it is. We have loop, autoplay, and muted. So, and it preload, and well, preload as well, but it autoplays, muted, and it loops. So that's what it does. And so the video itself isn't that long, but it looks like it's a continuous video. So that's another option you have. Poster is another one that you see here on this video. Poster would be the image that they see while the video is downloading. So you may want to specify a poster attribute as well. Okay, there's some other ones that you can look into as well, but I don't want to go into those too much. What I want to kind of talk about is the different ways that you can specify multiple videos. So in this example, on MDN, we have two sources. One is a WebM video, and one is an MP4 video. Now you may wonder, what is the difference? And that's a great question. So I did also link to this website here, evilmartians.com. Talks about better video with AV1, which we'll talk about AV1 in a little bit as well. But in this kind of section of the document, it talks about codecs and containers. So with images, you don't have to think twice. You just say JPEG, PNG, whatever, and that's the compression algorithm that's used. But with video, you have not only frames, but you also have audio too. So there's a video compression algorithm, an audio compression algorithm, and there's a container that stores those. And they might also have some metadata or some things that the container uses. So in this case, usually what you're going to see here is the container, WebM or MP4 as the extension, and you're also going to see that as the type. In this case, we don't see what actual video codec was used. In this case, it maybe was HEVC or H264. We don't know. But anyways, we have WebM as the container. And the reason that's important to know is not all browsers are equal when it comes to video. And this is also the case with images, but I would say more so with video. So if you go to caniuse.com, you can search for AV1, which is the newest video format, the video compression format. And this is just starting to roll out. If you notice, it just came out in Chrome about 2 years ago. It's not yet in Safari. Just entered Edge earlier this year, so it's fairly new. So if you have an AV1 encoded video, you may run into some problems playing it on older browsers. Now, that shouldn't discourage you from using AV1 because your video will have a smaller download size or maybe higher quality depending on how you encoded it. But either way, that's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for the users that are able to see it. So a lot of times what people do is they'll encode the same video twice, maybe one using a new technology and one using an old one. And if you do that, you're going to want to specify multiple sources here. In this case, we have WebM specified as the source here, and we have MP4 specified as the source here. So what I did for this example is I downloaded another video. This is a WebM video. It's using the AV1 codec, but it's using a WebM container. So let's go ahead and instead of putting source here, let's go ahead and put source as a separate tag inside it. So if we look at our guide on how to do that, we have something like this. I'll go ahead and copy that. All right, so we have source, src, and in this case, we'll just put video2.webm, and we have a type of video/webm. Now we're going to have another one here, another source is video.mp4, type equals video/mp4. Now the type isn't necessarily always going to be video slash then the file extension. You may want to look up the MIME type on that, but most of the times it will be. So in this case, I've got two videos, and in fact, they're actually different videos. One is a video of the Earth, which you already saw, that was the MP4, and another video was, I think they were at some kind of a race or something like that, some people at a race. So let's go ahead and reload Chrome now, and you'll see the new video, because Chrome does support the WebM container, and it does support the AV1 video codec. So if we go ahead and, where is my, here it is. If we refresh here, now we see these people, they're partying. They just finished some kind of a run or something like that. So anyways, let's go ahead and close that down. I got these samples from the web. I linked those in the description. So let's go ahead and see the same exact website, what happens on Internet Explorer. Now I know Internet Explorer is quite old, but it's a good example of what you may see with a browser that doesn't support a certain video codec. At first Internet Explorer is blocking ActiveX controls, but let's just allow that. And now we see the Earth. So what actually happened here? If we go back to here, this type was not supported by Internet Explorer, and this one was. So this one was skipped, and this one was loaded. So that is how you can do it. Now obviously you're not going to have two different videos most of the time. It's going to be the same video, just encoded in two different ways. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. Don't shy away from using the new video formats. In fact, YouTube, Netflix, all the big players are using AV1 already, but they have a backup format for devices that don't support AV1. So for example, obviously Internet Explorer doesn't, but also another big one is Safari. Not only desktop Safari, but iOS Safari, and pretty much all of the mobile browsers. Chrome for Android even doesn't support it yet. So, and that's a roughly 37% of the people that are online use Chrome for Android. So definitely keep your eye on AV1. It's going to grow over time. I would assume Chrome for Android might be one of the next ones, and Safari is usually kind of late to the party with these types of things, so we'll see how long it takes for them to get on. But for now, I would go ahead and use AV1 with an MP4 backup. That's what I would recommend. So anyways, MP4 using an older codec, not an AV1 codec. Okay, I know that was a lot of talking about video formats, but hopefully I got my point across as far as why you may want to have multiple sources and what the internet browsers are going to do with those. So let's take a step back and talk about another way you can embed a video on your website, and that would be using a YouTube video. Now, there may be other video sources such as Vimeo that you might want to embed on your website, and they're going to be kind of the same way. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. For YouTube, if you pull up a YouTube video, I've got this 2018 World Chess Championship video. It's pretty easy to embed a video here. You can go to Share and go to the Embed tab, and you're going to get some options here. So, you can change the place that the video starts at. If I wanted to start it at maybe is that 1 minute? I don't know. I think that's 1 minute. Yeah. You can disable controls, and you can do a couple other things. But let's go ahead and copy all this code and just paste it in our website here. Okay, now let's refresh. And now we have a YouTube video embedded on the site. So I'm going to mute that so you don't hear that video as well. But that's pretty simple. That's really all you got to do for YouTube. Now let's talk a little bit about the advantages of YouTube versus the advantages of embedding it directly on the site. Obviously, if you embed it directly on the site, you're going to not have YouTube ads, and you're not going to have people potentially going to YouTube instead of your website. So that's kind of a big deal. However, YouTube is good in the fact that they will handle the video streaming options for you. So in this case, the quality is 360p, but you may want a higher quality version of this thing. A lot of times YouTube will have automatically selected, so it will kind of choose the best video quality for your internet speed. And that's kind of hard to replicate with a standard HTML video tag, because these videos that you upload don't necessarily come in multiple qualities, nor do they switch back and forth. There is a third option that you can do, which is called Video.js, which I actually do recommend this if you don't want YouTube videos on your website. And you can actually do streaming options that kind of adapt to the internet bandwidth. So, you might want to look into that. So we have a video here, same type of thing. And there's a whole bunch of different customizations that you can do as far as how it looks and the different controls that are shown on the video player. So with all that being said, video on the web is kind of complex. There's a whole bunch of different options for you. If you just want the simplest way to do it, you're going to want to do video and then put a source for the video in here, and then you're done. So that's the simplest way, but it's not always the best way. So at least now you should know some options, and feel free to reach out with any questions that you might have.